Welcome to Texas Redfish Hunter TV, brought to you by the Redtail Republic, wherever your journey takes you, home of Redtail rods and Redtail optics, and Twang, add a dash to your beer or snack. What's up guys, and welcome to this episode of Texas Redfish Hunter TV and Rigging for Redfish number 2. If you haven't seen the first episode, I will leave that link in the card. It's one of these corners, can't remember which one. But you can check that out. That is a popping cork video and my setup for popping corks. So the setup I'm going to talk about today is a setup that I never leave home without when I'm going out and targeting redfish. And that is some sort of swim bait, soft plastic, mullet imitation, shad imitation lure. Something like an Egret Baits Bayou Chub Minnow or a Saltwater Assassin Sea Shad, you know, typical paddle tail stuff. That is a setup that I never leave home without. And it all starts with the rod and reel setup. So I'm going to unsheath the beast now. This is Cora's baby. This is her 7'2" custom Redtail rod. It's a medium fast action tip, super sensitive rod. And when you are going with some sort of setup like this, you're going to want a rod that's really sensitive because you're going to want to be able to feel when you get bites and also what type of structure you're fishing around, like whether you're on shell or mud or sand. You know, a really sensitive rod can tell you exactly what you're fishing on. That way if you're catching fish, you know where the fish are holding to. If they're sitting on shell patches, you know to target shell patches, and so on and so forth. So you want a sensitive rod. She's got this paired up on a 13 fishing Concept A that she really likes and really fits well on this rod. It's really well balanced on this rod especially. And she has that strung up with 30-pound Power Pro braid. I like Power Pro or fins. That's kind of the braid that I use, and I use in the 20 to 30 pound range on pretty much all of my setups. You want to use braid because you want a tough line that's going to stand up to hard runs that the reds do. So braided line is the way to go. It also is more sensitive, and again, sensitivity is key. But you're going to want braid on your main line because you want something that's going to stand up to those hard red runs. Now once you strung that up, the next step is leader. And you have to use a leader. I actually recommend using a leader because, well, there's a lot of benefits to it. The leader that I use is usually 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader material. Fluorocarbon is just the way to go. I like it better than mono when you're using leader material. And again, something in that 20 to 25 to 30 pound range, something that's going to stand up to bigger redfish. The reason you have to use leader is because braid has no stretch. So if a red runs hard, the only thing that takes any tension off of the line is your drag. And you don't necessarily want to rely on your drag because sometimes it will stick. That will put a lot of tension on the braid will wear and the fish will get off. So something like fluorocarbon leader that gives a little bit of stretch, just a little bit of stretch to that fish, helps tremendously, and it'll increase your hookup ratio. Now the biggest thing about the leader is it's got to be tied directly to your braid. Learn how to tie a braid to fluorocarbon knot, something like that. That's not a very good one, but that's you know, something that you need to learn how to tie. Do not use swivels. 1, because swivels won't go through your eyelets of your rod, and 2, because it's just extra material that you don't need. It is way better to just learn how to tie a braid to fluorocarbon knot. The knots I use are an FG knot, which is the best braid to fluorocarbon knot you can tie. Again, I'm not going to show you how to do that because there's a lot of good videos on YouTube already that show you how to do that tie. So yeah, FG knot for braid to fluoro, or something easy like a double uni knot works. Reverse Albright, and there's a ton, but FG and double uni are the ones that I use most of the time. So go ahead and cut yourself off like 12 inches to 15 inches of leader material and use one of those ties to tie it to your braided line. Next thing you need is a really good jig head. The jig heads that I pretty much exclusively use, that I like a lot, are Rockport Rattler jig heads. These have rattles in them, so when you're popping this thing, the fish will hear that and that will attract some fish. So I do like using Rockport Rattler jig heads. 16th ounce is actually what I use a lot of the time on kayaks. I'm kind of finesse fishing a lot of times, but if you want it to sink faster and all that other good stuff that goes along with increasing your jig head size, then go ahead and use a bigger jig head. If you want to get a little bit more casting distance, use a bigger jig head. But don't be afraid to throw really light jig heads because a lot of the times that's what's going to actually trigger some fish to bite. So now that you have your jig head out and you're ready to tie it onto your leader, the other end of your leader, I usually use for this knot, if I'm just doing a basic knot, I'll do like a blood knot here. If I want to get a little bit more action out of the lure, if I'm going to be popping it, then I'm going to use something like a loop knot. So again, basic, whatever you usually tie knot here. If you want to get a little bit more action out of the lure, go ahead and tie a loop knot here. There you go. So now you have your braid to fluorocarbon to jig head. And now you're ready to string on your soft plastic. I'm just going to be putting on a saltwater assassin chicken on a chain, a little sea shad. It's one of my go-to lures, along with these egret baits, Bayou chub minnows. So again, this is just any basic soft plastic that you want to use. You can rig it up the same way. Just go straight down through the top, go kind of where it's going to be perfectly measured to the top of the jig head. Put that through, and boom, there you have it. And the good thing about these Rockport Rattler jig heads is they've got these hook keepers, so it's really going to stay on your hook really well. So that is kind of the basic setup, and it is one of my go-tos when I am going out and targeting redfish. You're not going to want to leave home without this setup. If you want to learn a little bit about how I retrieve these types of lures and what these lures look like underwater, you're going to want to check out my lure retrieval technique video. I will leave that link in the cards as well, and I'll probably put it in the description also, so that you guys can check out my retrieval styles for these lures. And hopefully that helps you out next time you are on the water. So again, rundown from the top. 7'2" custom Redtail rod, medium fast action tip, something super sensitive so you can feel these bites and feel what type of structure you are fishing on. 20 to 30 pound braid, 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader. Use some sort of FG or double uni knot for the braid to fluorocarbon tie, Rockport Rattler jig head, and then some sort of swim bait soft plastic. Alright guys, so that is going to be it for rigging for redfish number 2. There's going to be one more of these in this series, and I'm going to be talking about topwaters and my go-to topwaters and how I rig them up. You're not going to want to miss that, so definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Check out my other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next week.